Rev up your engines!
Well, Tesla sent some new type of record, and that is that every single Tesla ever made now has been recalled at some period in time. Yes, every single one of them. He thinks cars aren't cars, they're computers. And he's always trying to fix them over the air with internet fixes, right? Well, guess what? It doesn't always work. You can't fix mechanical problems with software. Ages ago, Chrysler had all kinds of problems with their transmissions, their automatics, right? And they did this, reprogram them. Guess what? It didn't fix diddly squat. They pretended it did. And of course, no one ever follows up on half of this stuff. There's recalls. They usually don't even follow up. Did the recall fix it? Did it work? They just say it did, and then they go on and on. I had bunches of customers with the Chryslers had their transmissions reprogrammed. They still worked like crap and didn't work correctly. Well, he's going the same way, trying to fix things over there on the internet. And it doesn't always work. But the fact that every single Tesla ever made has been recalled at some point in time shows you the crap that the guy's making. And that people are falling for this stuff. I mean, they're talking about that Hyperloop thing in Las Vegas again, right? Ages ago, like 10 years ago, he came up with this idea of Hyperloop vacuum. And, oh, we'll have cars magically flying through these vacuum tubes all over the country, right, to stop congestion. Like, does anybody even think of the cost of this stuff? Take his Starlink. Everyone's mad at him now because they raised the cost to buy the equipment. It's $600 just to buy his uplink kit for the Starlink, and it's $110 per month to get the stuff. This is like broadband replacement. Somebody sings at 15 megabytes a second. I mean, that is turtle speed these days. It's a heck of a lot cheaper just putting fiber optic cable around on Earth than sending satellites into space. I mean, every single one of his cars have been recalled. That's got to be a record. I've never heard of any other manufacturer that every single car they made had to be recalled at some point in time. To me, it's hilarious that any fools go out and buy this crap. Cali Roll 15 says, why won't you answer my questions, but you answer common knowledge questions? Well, here I am answering your questions. Hey, there's lots of questions. The main reason I answer the common ones is because it helps more people out. But here's your question. I got a 98 GMC Sierra, lost all top end power. It doesn't want to shift out of first when I floor it. It has 250,000 miles. Fluids were replaced 10,000 miles. The gas mileage is typical. What are your thoughts of why it flattens out? It won't shift out of first until I let off the gas. Well, your transmission is just flat wearing out. That is the classic sign, and it's an older one. It's a 98. If you have an older American car, you step on the gas, it stays in first gear, and then when you let go, it shifts into second gear, maybe then second gear, and then when you take your gas off, it shifts into third. That means your transmission is just flat wearing out inside. Now, some people will drive them years that way. They just realize, hey, do I really want to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on another transmission? No. I mean, that thing's got 250,000 miles on it. But your transmission is going out. That's just the way it is on those. Now, if you want to try something that may work to take off 1 quart of your transmission fluid, put in 1 quart of the Lucas transmission fix liquid. See what happens within 250 miles of driving it. Sometimes it makes them go a little bit better, but realize it's just flat wearing out inside, and that's how they wear out. They're supposed to shift automatically, and the pressure builds too high because it's wearing out inside. But when you take your foot off the gas, that lowers the pressure and it shifts into the next gear. That's just how they wear out on those things. I mean, hey, you got 250,000 miles on a GMC. You're lucky you got that many miles. Normally the trannies go out at least 150 or so, so you got 100,000 free miles out of it. Providence says, I need a radiator for my Santa Fe 2013. I went to the dealership. He says there's a tiny leak somewhere in the radiator. It was full of coolant. It was okay, but what do you think? Should I change it or is there an alternative? All right, let's say it's leaking at the seam. When I was a young mechanic, radiators were made out of copper and brass. You could solder them back together. Now they're different. They're plastic and aluminum. The plastic has the aluminum part clamped by a machine, crushed them on. When they get older, sometimes the seams leak. Now, I've had very good luck with the Bars leak sealer. Putting it in the system, they sell at all the discount auto parts stores. You get the bottle of the good stuff, not the cheap stuff. It's like, I don't know, $15, $16. Not the $3 one, but the $15, $16 one. Then mix those with all the antifreezes. Put it in and drive it. It may stop leaking entirely because it could be a little seam leak. Now, on the other hand, look closely. If you see the plastic tank is cracking, then you need to replace it. The plastic loses its plasticize. There's no longer supple, cracks and leaks. You need another radiator. And you can go aftermarket. Like you at a dealer, they probably want, what, $800-900 to replace it. You can get an aftermarket radiator in many places for maybe $130-40. Do it yourself. It's not that hard to do if you want to replace it now. But the sealer often works if it's just the seam that's leaking. Car Shark says I got a noise in my 2010 Honda Pilot engine. 164,000 miles. A loud ticking noise occurs when I start it, and it won't go away when I drive it. The noise is still around. Numero uno. It's a Honda. Honda engines are different than others. They have hydraulic lifters on them. You have to manually adjust the valves. Start by having a mechanic adjust your valves. It's got 164,000. If it's never been adjusted, they certainly need adjustment. They have little screws and bolts. You loosen the bolts and then you adjust the screws so that the valve adjustment is exactly as it should be. The only problem is you got a 6-cylinder engine. You have to be adjusted. Pray it's just out of adjustment. If not, you have worn in the drivetrain, and those engines are notorious. 12 years old, 164,000 miles. Often the cams will wear and they're clacking. So if a mechanic's adjusted, said I can't adjust these because the cam's worn, you're going to live with it until, you're either going to put another engine or get rid of the vehicle, because replacing the cams costs thousands of dollars to do correctly. So pray it just needs them adjusted. Travis says, I want to reduce the cabin noise of a Toyota Corolla. I like them, but it's kind of noisy. Can you think changing the tires will help, or rims? What do you think? Tires do make a lot of noise. Now, I would leave the size that's there. Go to tire stores and say you want the quietest tires they have. The less aggressive treads that have less deep treads and real aggressive for going in snow and mud, the smoother ones make a lot less noise. You might be happy with that, but they don't put much insulations in Corollas. It's the bottom line car. Watch my videos how to reduce noise in a car. You can actually insulate them quite well, and it's going to be a whole bunch quieter. Just realize it's a lot of work. You got to take the doors apart, the seats out. You got to put the insulation stuff in. It's a job. Now, you might just think, well, I'll try the tires first. Maybe you'll be happy with a little bit of change that less aggressive tires are going to be. Some people are happy with that, but the insulation works the best. You insulate them. They're going to be quiet. The only difference between most luxury cars and the economy cars are the luxury cars have all kinds of insulation because they want to be quiet. They build them that way. And the economy cars don't, because it costs money to put it in. So they just make them cheaper. They both run the same. Actually, you get better gas mileage in one that doesn't have insulation, because the insulation does have some weight to it, but it isn't going to make that much difference in a Corolla. You might add, 30 pounds, 40 pounds to the weight of the car. It's going to make all that much difference. Patty Mel Jones says, I'm looking at used Audis. I've been looking at a 4-cylinder 2013 Audi A4 automatic. Owner says it has a rebuilt title. I think you should run away, unless you live in a different universe than I do. Audis are endless money pits before, especially the 4-cylinder ones. That has a rebuilt title. That means the car was totaled by an insurance company, then some clown supposedly fixed it and then sold it to somebody else. Never buy a rebuilt car, especially an Audi, unless you know the entire history of it. Now, some cars will have a rebuilt title because they were in a hailstorm. The hail will dent everything, and it costs too much money with a real body guy to fix it all. So they'll total the car, especially on that. It's 9 years old. It would be totaled. So if another body guy gets all the things out and paints it and it looks fine now, what do you care? If you knew that it was totaled because it was in a hailstorm, but you don't know. Guy's got a rebuilt title. He claims only the radiator was changed. That's BS. They don't total a car because it needs a radiator. They total it because it's in a big front end wreck, and yeah, you got to replace the radiator, but a bunch of other stuff was ruined. I would not buy that car. I wouldn't buy that car even if it wasn't in a wreck. And now I certainly would double down and say, don't even get near that car. Run away screaming. Or if you buy it, you'll be screaming in your nightmares of, why did I buy this car? Well, I'm happy. It looks like Toyota's bringing back the station wagon. Only, of course, they're not calling it a station wagon. The 2023 Lexus TX and the Toyota Grand Highlander, basically the same vehicle, are coming back. They call it a large SUV, but to me, hey, it looks like a station wagon. I mean, check it out. Does that look like a station wagon? It looks like a station wagon to me. They just don't like the word station wagon. I guess it doesn't fit with their image. They're, of course, calling them SUVs. That's a station wagon. You can call it whatever you want. I know what a station wagon looks like. The only thing is the back is shorter than an actual station wagon, so you can't fit as much into it. But it's still a station wagon. I don't care. Now, these are being assembled in Indiana. You can't get more American than Indiana, right? So, Toyota's going to be making station wagons in Indiana. Call them SUVs, but I don't care. They're station wagons. Look at them. Hurrah! They're bringing back the station wagon. I like station wagons. And yeah, they're fancy-looking station wagons, but they're still station wagons. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.